In the dappled shade of the California oaks, Tukupai sat, his eyes closed, his breath as steady as the distant hum of the Pacific. The Chumash village around him was a harmony of nature and man. Huts of tule reeds, canoes resting by the gentle waves, and the air rich with the scent of roasting fish and sage. Tukupai was not yet a man in the eyes of his tribe, but he carried a responsibility far greater than most his age. He was a hutash, a healer, recently initiated, still finding his footing in a role that demanded wisdom far beyond his years. That night, as the moon climbed high and the village slept, Tukupai's world was shaken. A dream, vivid and unsettling, took him far beyond the familiar rolling hills and oak groves. He stood in a place of towering pyramids and vast plazas, a city unlike anything he had ever seen or heard of in tales. Amidst this grandeur, a boy lay sick, his small frame racked with fever, his breath shallow. He was of noble birth, his finery eclipsed only by the worry in his mother's eyes. The boy was the son of a distant emperor, a ruler of a great realm far to the south, in the lands of the Mexica. As the first light of dawn broke, Tukupai awoke, the dream seared into his memory. He knew, with a certainty that defied logic, that this was no ordinary vision. The spirits had chosen him for a reason. He needed to act, but first, he sought counsel. He found the village chief, a man of stern countenance and few words, and his own mentor, an elder hutash named Yanai. They listened as he recounted the dream in the council hut, the walls adorned with symbols of their ancestors and the spirits they revered. Yanai, her face etched with the wisdom of many winters, exchanged a glance with the chief.
"A dream is a message, Tukupai,"
she said, her voice a blend of caution and curiosity.
"but not all messages demand action. The Mexica are a distant people. Their world is not ours."
The chief nodded in agreement.
"Your duty is to our tribe, Tukupai. You are young, your path as a hutash only just begun. This journey, it is perilous, beyond the scope of your training."
Tukupai felt a surge of frustration, yet he understood their concerns. He was young, untested in the eyes of many, but the dream had been clear, its urgency undeniable. He took a deep breath, steadying himself before speaking.
"There is more,"
he said, his voice steady.
"In my dream, I held a rock, small and unassuming, yet it glowed with an inner light. It was the key to the boy's healing. This rock..."
He paused, reaching into the pouch that hung at his side. He withdrew a smooth, palm-sized stone, speckled with flecks that shimmered like the night sky. It was an heirloom, passed down through generations of his family, said to hold great power, though its true nature had never been revealed to him. The chief and Yanai leaned forward, their skepticism giving way to intrigue. The rock was familiar to them, a part of village lore, yet its purpose had always been shrouded in mystery.
"This rock,"
Tukupai continued,
"I believe it is what the Emperor's son needs. The spirits would not have shown me this if there were no truth to it."
Yanai's eyes narrowed, not in doubt, but in contemplation.
"If this is true, Tukupai, it changes much. The journey to the Mexica lands is fraught with danger, but if the spirits have chosen you, who are we to question their will?"
The chief remained silent, his gaze fixed on the stone. Finally, he spoke.
"This is a matter that requires more thought. We must consult the spirits, seek their guidance. Tukupai, you have shown courage in bringing this to us. We will deliberate and give you our decision by sunset."
Tukupai bowed his head in respect, his heart a tumult of hope and apprehension. He stepped out of the council hut, the stone now heavy in his hand, its fate, and his, hanging in the balance. As he walked back to his own hut, the village slowly stirring to life around him, Tukupai felt a weight of destiny upon his shoulders. He had taken the first step on a path that could lead him to the heart of a great empire, to a sick boy who needed his help, and to a truth that lay hidden within a magical rock. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the village. Tukupai waited, the stone a constant presence at his side, as the hours ticked slowly towards sunset. The sun hung low, casting a golden hue over the Chumash village, as Tukupai awaited the elder's decision. The day had been long, each hour stretching like the shadows that now danced across the ground. Beside him stood Anoki, his friend and appointed warrior companion, a young man whose reputation for bravery and skill was known throughout the tribe. As the village gathered, the chief emerged from the council hut. His gaze swept over the crowd before settling on Tukupai and Anoki.
The spirits have spoken.
He began, his voice carrying the weight of his responsibility.
Tukupai and Anoki will journey to the lands of the Mexica. The path is fraught with danger, but the spirits guide them. They carry our hopes with them.
A murmur of surprise and concern rippled through the village. Tukupai felt a surge of both pride and fear. The journey ahead was one of great risk, but the dream that had come to him was now a mission entrusted by his people. The next day, Tukupai and Anoki prepared for their journey. They gathered supplies, dried fish, nuts, water pouches, and tools for hunting. Yanai gifted Tukupai a bundle of herbs and roots, remedies for ailments they might encounter. The chief presented Anoki with a finely crafted bow, its string as taut as the tension in the air. As evening approached, the village gathered to bid them farewell. Tukupai's family embraced him, their eyes glistening with unshed tears. Anoki's father, a respected warrior, clasped his son's shoulder, imparting silent words of strength. Under the cover of twilight, Tukupai and Anoki set out, the weight of their task a tangible presence. They followed the river, its flow a constant companion as they ventured into the unknown. The moon had risen high when the unexpected happened. A sudden, chilling war cry shattered the night's peace. A rival tribe, known for their aggression, launched a raid. Arrows whizzed through the air, their intent deadly. Anoki reacted instantly, his warrior instincts taking over. He pulled Tukupai behind a large boulder, shielding him.
"Stay down!"
He hissed, knocking an arrow to his bow with practiced ease. Tukupai, though less experienced in combat, was not defenseless. He had learned some fighting techniques and was quick on his feet. He peeked around the boulder, spotting the raiders advancing through the shadows. Anoki's arrow flew, finding its mark. One raider fell, but more followed. Tukupai grasped a small knife, his heart pounding. This was no longer a practice session in the safety of their village. This was real, life-threatening danger. Together, they fought off the raiders. Anoki's arrows were swift and deadly, while Tukupai's agility helped him dodge attacks and strike when opportunities presented themselves. The battle was intense, but brief. The raiders, realizing they had underestimated their opponents, retreated into the darkness. Breathing heavily, Tukupai and Anoki surveyed the area. They were unharmed, but the sudden attack had been a stark reminder of the perils they would face on their journey.
"We must move quickly,"
Anoki said, scanning the darkness.
"Others may come."
They continued their journey, traveling under the cloak of night. The familiar landscape of their homeland soon gave way to unfamiliar terrain. Each step took them further from everything they knew, deeper into a world of uncertainty and danger. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, Tukupai felt a mix of fear and excitement. He clutched the magical rock, its surface cool against his skin. It was a talisman of hope, a beacon guiding them towards a destiny that was both daunting and noble. Their path led them through dense forests where the light struggled to penetrate the thick canopy, across open plains where the wind whispered secrets of the land, and towards towering mountains that touched the sky. With each mile, they ventured further into the unknown, driven by a vision, a rock, and the faith of their people. The journey to Tenochtitlán, the heart of the Mexica Empire, was a path fraught with unknowns. Tukupai and Anoki, bound by friendship and duty, faced the journey ahead with courage and determination. The world was vast, and they were but two souls in its expanse, yet they carried with them the hopes of their people and the possibility of a miracle. As the first light of the new day filled the sky, Tukupai looked back one last time. His village, his home, was now just a memory, a place he hoped to return to, carrying news of a mission fulfilled. Ahead lay the unknown, a path that would test their strength, their friendship, and the very depths of their souls. With the rising sun at their backs, Tukupai and Anoki stepped forward into their destiny, the world before them vast and uncharted. The journey had begun. The terrain changed as Tukupai and Anoki ventured deeper into the wilderness. The land, once familiar, now posed challenges at every turn. The map of their journey was not drawn on parchment, but etched in the wisdom of their ancestors and the knowledge passed down through generations. As they approached a river, its waters rushed and roared with a ferocity that spoke of the recent rains. Tukupai eyed the river warily. The Chumash were skilled canoe builders, masters of navigating the coastal waters. But this river was a different beast. Its currents were strong and unpredictable. Anoki surveyed the riverbank, his eyes sharp and calculating.
We need to cross,
He said.
but we must be cautious. The current could easily sweep us away.
Using skills honed from childhood, they began to construct a rudimentary raft. Gathering fallen branches and vines, they lashed them together, following the techniques their people had used for generations. The raft was simple but sturdy, designed to carry them across the treacherous waters. As they pushed off from the bank, the river's power became immediately apparent. The raft bucked and swayed, the current tugging at it like a wild animal. Tukupai's heart pounded in his chest as he used his paddle to steer, relying on his knowledge of water and its ways. Anoki's strength was crucial, his powerful strokes keeping them on course. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the opposite bank, their bodies weary but spirits lifted by their success. They had faced their first great challenge and emerged victorious. Their relief was short-lived, however. As they continued their journey, the dense foliage around them rustled ominously. Anoki's hand went to his bow, his senses alert. A mountain lion, majestic and fearsome, emerged from the underbrush, its eyes fixed on them. Tukupai froze, remembering the teachings of his elders. Mountain lions were respected and feared in Chumash culture, seen as powerful spirits of the wilderness. He knew that direct confrontation was to be avoided.
Do not attack.
He said to Anoki.
Show it respect, but do not show fear. We must back away slowly.
Anoki nodded, understanding the wisdom in Tukupai's words. They began to retreat, making themselves appear larger while avoiding direct eye contact. The mountain lion watched them, its tail twitching, but did not advance. It was a tense, heart-stopping moment, a test of both their courage and their understanding of the natural world. Finally, the lion turned, disappearing back into the forest as silently as it had appeared. Tukupai let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding.
The spirits were with us,
He said, a note of awe in his voice. Anoki nodded, his respect for Tukupai's knowledge deepening.
Let's move on,
He said.
We must make up for lost time.
As night began to fall, they found a safe place to camp. The fire they built was small, just enough to keep them warm and cook their meal. They spoke little, each lost in their thoughts, reflecting on the day's events. Unbeknownst to them, a figure watched from the shadows, their presence silent and unobtrusive. This mysterious observer had been tracking them since they left their village, their intentions unknown. The fire crackled, casting flickering shadows on the trees. Tukupai and Anoki, exhausted from the day's trials, finally succumbed to sleep, unaware of the eyes that followed their every move. The journey was proving to be more dangerous and unpredictable than they had ever imagined, and this was only the beginning. A week had passed since Tukupai and Anoki left the river's edge, and now they found themselves at the edge of a vast expanse that stretched beyond the horizon, the Sinaloan Desert. The landscape before them was a stark contrast to the lush forests and rivers they had traversed. Here, the sun reigned supreme, beating down upon the barren land with unrelenting fervor. Armed with limited supplies and the resolve of their mission, they stepped into the sea of sand and heat. The desert was a test of endurance, a place where life hung in a delicate balance. Tukupai recalled the stories of his elders, tales of travelers who had ventured into such lands, some never to return. As they journeyed, the sun scorched the earth, and the sands seemed to stretch endlessly. Water became their most precious commodity, each sip rationed to make their supply last. The heat was oppressive, making every step feel like a battle against an invisible foe. By the third day, the harsh conditions began to take their toll. Both Tukupai and Anoki struggled with exhaustion, their bodies pushed to their limits. The endless dunes, shimmering in the heat, played tricks on their eyes. Hallucinations flickered at the edge of their vision, mirages of water and shade that vanished as quickly as they appeared. It was during one of these moments of delirium that Tukupai felt a pull from the magical rock he carried. Weak and desperate, he followed its guidance, his steps uncertain, but driven by a deep-seated trust in the stone's power. Miraculously, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, they stumbled upon an oasis. It was a hidden gem in the heart of the desert, a sanctuary of palm trees and cool, clear water. The relief was palpable, and for a moment, they allowed themselves to bask in the respite it offered. They drank deeply, the water a balm to their parched throats. Tukupai used the opportunity to replenish their water supplies, carefully filling their pouches. They feasted on dates from the palms, the fruit a welcome change from their dwindling rations. As night fell, they set up a small camp by the oasis. The coolness of the evening was a stark contrast to the day's heat, and for the first time in days, they slept deeply, their bodies and spirits rejuvenated. But their peace was short-lived. As dawn broke, bringing with it the promise of another grueling day, they were ambushed. Bandits, like phantoms of the desert, emerged from their hiding places among the dunes. These were men hardened by the desert, their eyes as cold as the night. Tukupai and Anoki were caught off guard, their weapons not within easy reach. The bandits encircled them, their intentions clear. They were after water, supplies, and anything of value, including the magical rock. Anoki reacted first, lunging for his bow, but he was quickly subdued, a knife at his throat. Tukupai, realizing the gravity of their situation, raised his hands in a gesture of peace.
We mean you no harm.
Tukupai said, his voice steady despite the fear that gripped him.
Take our water, our supplies, but let us go in peace.
The leader of the bandits, a man with a scarred face and piercing eyes, seemed to consider Tukupai's offer. His gaze fell on the pouch that held the magical rock.
What's in there?
He demanded, pointing at the pouch. Tukupai hesitated, knowing that the rock was their only hope for completing their mission. He could not let it fall into the wrong hands.
It's a family heirloom of no value to anyone but me.
Tukupai lied, hoping to dissuade the bandit leader. But the leader was not convinced. He ordered one of his men to seize the pouch. As the bandit reached for it, Tukupai knew they were on the brink of disaster. The loss of the rock would mean the failure of their mission and possibly their lives. In that moment of desperation, with their fate hanging in the balance, Tukupai made a split-second decision. He lunged for the pouch, a futile attempt to protect it, but was swiftly knocked to the ground. The bandits snatched the pouch, and with it, their last hope. As the bandits began to retreat, taking their meager supplies and the precious rock, Tukupai and Anoki were left in the dust, defeated and desolate. The oasis, once a haven, now felt like a trap, a place where their journey had taken a perilous turn. The bandits disappeared into the desert as quickly as they had appeared, leaving Tukupai and Anoki to grapple with the enormity of their loss. The magical rock, the key to their mission, was gone. The path ahead was more uncertain than ever, and they were left to wonder if the spirits had abandoned them in this vast, unforgiving desert. In the wake of the bandits' departure, Tukupai and Anoki found themselves alone, their supplies gone, and the magical rock stolen. But their ordeal was far from over. The bandits, intrigued by Tukupai's reaction to the rock, circled back, capturing them with ease. Bound and helpless, Tukupai and Anoki were led across the desert, their fate uncertain. As they trudged through the scorching sands, Tukupai's mind raced. The rock was not just a tool for their mission. It was a part of his heritage, a connection to his ancestors and their wisdom. He knew he had to reclaim it, not only for the sake of the emperor's son, but for his own people. The bandits' camp was a collection of tents hidden in a secluded valley, shielded from the harsh desert environment. Here, the bandits lived like ghosts of the desert, forgotten by time and society. Tukupai and Anoki were thrown into a makeshift prison, a tent guarded by two men who looked at them with suspicion and curiosity. As night fell, Tukupai whispered to Anoki,
We must escape tonight. The rock is not just a stone, it's a part of our history, our soul. We cannot leave it in the hands of these men.
Anoki nodded, his eyes reflecting determination.
I will follow your lead, Tukupai. We must be swift and silent.
Tukupai had noticed the guards' routine and their casual disregard for the two captives. He also observed that the tent's fabric was worn and fragile in places. Using a small, sharp stone he had secretly picked up along the way, he began to work on the fabric, cutting a small hole just big enough for them to crawl through. Hours passed, and when the camp was enveloped in the deep silence of the desert night, they made their move. Tukupai led the way, slipping through the hole and into the shadows. Anoki followed, his warrior skills enabling him to move with stealth and precision. They crept through the camp, avoiding the flickering lights of the fires and the occasional snoring of a sleeping bandit. Tukupai's heart pounded in his chest, each beat a drum of fear and hope. Their first objective was to find where the bandits had stashed their belongings. They found their supplies and, more importantly, the pouch with the magical rock in a tent that seemed to serve as a storage space. Tukupai clutched the pouch, feeling the familiar contours of the rock within. A wave of relief washed over him, but there was no time to savor it. They had to leave, now. As they made their way towards the edge of the camp, a sudden noise startled them. A bandit, roused from his sleep by their movement, stumbled out of his tent. Anoki reacted instantly, grappling with the man, trying to silence him before he could raise the alarm. In the scuffle, a sharp pain shot through Anoki's leg. He stifled a groan, pushing the bandit away. Tukupai, realizing Anoki was injured, helped him up, and they continued their escape, limping and half-carrying each other. They had almost reached the safety of the desert's darkness when a shout went up in the camp. The alarm had been raised. They could hear the bandits scrambling, the sounds of pursuit soon filling the night. Tukupai and Anoki pushed forward, driven by adrenaline and the urgency of their situation. The desert night was a maze of shadows and uncertainty, but they had no choice but to keep moving. As they distanced themselves from the camp, Anoki's strength began to wane, his injury more severe than they had realized. Blood seeped through his clothing, and his steps grew more labored.
We need to stop,
Tukupai said, concern etched on his face.
I need to see your wound.
No!
Anoki gritted through the pain.
We can't stop now. They're close behind us.
But his words were cut short as he stumbled, falling to the ground. Tukupai knelt beside him, fear gripping his heart. Anoki's leg was badly injured, the wound deep and bleeding profusely. In the distance, the sounds of the bandits' pursuit grew louder, their shouts carrying on the wind. Tukupai looked at his friend, at the rock in his hand, and knew the gravity of their situation. They were in the heart of the desert, injured and pursued, with little hope of escape. As he tried to help Anoki to his feet, Tukupai realized the full extent of their peril. They were not just fleeing from bandits. They were fighting for their lives, for their mission, for everything. They held dear. The night closed in around them, a blanket of darkness and uncertainty, as they faced the daunting challenge of survival. In the oppressive stillness of the Sinaloan desert, Tukupai knelt beside Anoki, whose breaths were shallow and labored. The wound on his leg was severe, a grim reminder of their desperate escape. Around them, the desert stretched endlessly, a barren witness to their plight. Tukupai's mind raced. As a Hutash, he had been trained in the arts of healing, but his skills had never been tested in such dire circumstances. He opened the pouch and took out the magical rock, its surface cool and smooth in his trembling hand. The rock, a beacon of hope and a symbol of his heritage, now held the key to Anoki's survival. He placed the rock against Anoki's wound, whispering a prayer to the spirits of his ancestors. The air around them seemed to shift, the energy emanating from the rock palpable. Tukupai's hands glowed faintly, the ancient symbols etched on the rock coming alive with a soft light. As he chanted, the rock's power flowed into Anoki's body, its magic working in ways Tukupai did not fully understand. The bleeding slowed, and the pain in Anoki's eyes lessened. It was a slow, painstaking process, but the rock's magic was potent, its healing powers profound. After what seemed like an eternity, Anoki's breathing steadied, and the color returned to his face. He opened his eyes, looking at Tukupai with a mix of pain and gratitude.
You saved me,
He whispered hoarsely. Tukupai smiled weakly, the strain of the healing taking its toll on him.
We save each other.
He replied.
That's what friends do.
As they rested, the bond between them deepened. They shared their fears and hopes, their conversation a balm to their weary souls. Tukupai spoke of his village, his family, and the weight of his role as a Hutash. Anoki talked about his dreams of becoming a great warrior, of protecting his people and earning his place in the annals of their history. Their respite was brief, however. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Tukupai sensed a change in the air. The desert was never truly silent, but now there was a different kind of stillness, a charged anticipation. He stood, his eyes scanning the horizon. The sand beneath his feet shifted, and he felt a vibration, a subtle call from the earth itself. The rock in his hand pulsed with energy, resonating with the forces around them. Tukupai realized what was happening. The spirits were with them, offering their aid in this hour of need. He closed his eyes, focusing on the energy flowing through him, and began to chant an ancient prayer. The wind picked up, a gentle breeze at first, then growing in intensity. Tukupai raised his arms, the rock held high, as he called upon the spirits of the wind and sand. The air around them swirled, the desert responding to his call. A sandstorm began to form, a whirling dance of sand and wind. It grew larger, enveloping them in a protective cocoon. Tukupai knew this was their chance. He helped Anoki to his feet, and together they disappeared into the storm, hidden from prying eyes. The storm raged around them, a furious barrier between them and their pursuers. Tukupai led the way, his senses attuned to the desert's voice. They moved with urgency, the storm their guide and shield. As the storm subsided, leaving a world transformed by its passage, Tukupai and Anoki found themselves alone once more. The danger, however, was far from over. As they paused to catch their breath, a chilling realization dawned on them. They were not alone. Someone, or something, was following them. Tukupai's heart sank as he saw a figure in the distance, shrouded in the fading light. The figure moved with purpose, its presence ominous. Tukupai knew then that they were being pursued by another Hutash, one who sought the magical rock for their own ends. The revelation hit them with the force of a thunderclap. Their journey had just become even more perilous. Not only were they battling the harsh elements and hostile bandits, but now they faced a rival imbued with powers similar to their own. Tukupai gripped the rock tightly, its surface warm against his skin. He looked at Anoki, his resolve hardening.
We must keep moving,
He said.
The rock must not fall into the wrong hands. Our mission is too important.
Anoki nodded, his expression grim.
We've come too far to give up now.
He agreed with renewed determination. They set off into the desert night, the stars overhead their silent witnesses. Behind them, the mysterious Hutash followed, a shadow among shadows, their intentions as dark as the night that enveloped them. Tukupai and Anoki journeyed through the night, the weight of their predicament hanging heavy upon them. The rival Hutash's pursuit was relentless, an ominous shadow trailing them under the moonlit sky. As dawn approached, painting the horizon with the first light, they reached a clearing. It was here, amidst the stillness of the desert morning, that their pursuer finally revealed himself. The rival Hutash was a figure of imposing presence, his eyes alight with a mix of determination and malice.
I have followed you far.
He said, his voice a low growl.
The rock you carry belongs to my tribe. It was stolen from us generations ago, and now I will reclaim it.
Tukupai clutched the rock, feeling its energy pulsing in his palm.
This rock has been in my family for centuries,
He countered.
It was given to us by the spirits for a sacred purpose.
The rival Hutash sneered.
Lies. It is time to return what is ours.
With a swift motion, he unleashed his power, sending a wave of energy towards Tukupai. Instinctively, Tukupai raised the rock, deflecting the attack with a burst of light. The magical duel had begun. Anoki, weakened but determined, stood by Tukupai's side. He readied his bow, his aim unerring even in his weakened state. The arrows flew, but the rival Hutash was quick, countering with blasts of energy. Tukupai realized that this battle was not just of physical might, but of spiritual strength. He chanted, calling upon the spirits of his ancestors, the rock glowing brighter with each word. The air crackled with magic, the rival Hutash's attacks growing fiercer. But Tukupai stood his ground, his confidence growing. He was no longer the hesitant healer of his village. He was a Hutash, a protector of his people and their legacy. With a mighty cry, Tukupai unleashed the full power of the rock. A blinding light enveloped the rival Hutash, halting his advance. The light pulsed, its energy overwhelming, and in a flash, the rival Hutash was thrown back, defeated. The confrontation was over, but its toll was evident. Anoki collapsed, his strength finally failing him. Tukupai rushed to his side, the rock still warm in his hand. He used its power once more, healing Anoki's wounds as best he could. They knew they could not delay any longer. With the rival Hutash defeated, they had to reach Tenochtitlán. They found a river, its waters flowing towards the distant lands of the Mexica. With the last of their strength, they built a raft, much like they had done before, and set sail down the river. Exhaustion overtook them, and they fell into a deep sleep, the current carrying them towards their destination. When Tukupai awoke, the world had transformed. The harsh desert had given way to lush greenery, the air rich with the scents of flowering plants and wet earth. In the distance, he saw it, Tenochtitlán, its temples and pyramids rising majestically against the sky, but his heart sank as he turned to Anoki. His friend lay still, too weak to wake. The journey had taken its toll, and though Tukupai had healed his wounds, the fatigue and the strain were too much. Tukupai felt a surge of fear and desperation. They were so close, yet now faced a new challenge. He shook Anoki gently, calling his name, but there was no response. As the raft drifted closer to the great city of Tenochtitlán, Tukupai sat by Anoki's side, the magical rock in his hand. Their journey had been fraught with peril, a testament to their courage and determination. But now, as they approached the end, Tukupai realized that the final test was not one of strength or magic, but of faith and hope. He gazed at the horizon, where the city of his visions awaited, a place of wonder and mystery. But his thoughts were with Anoki, his friend and companion, who lay silent and still. The future was uncertain, and the fate of the Emperor's son, of their mission, hung in the balance. As the raft approached the awe-inspiring city of Tenochtitlán, Tukupai's heart was heavy with worry for Anoki. The grandeur of the city, with its towering pyramids and bustling markets, was a stark contrast to the quiet urgency that gripped him. With the raft moored at the riverbank, Tukupai gathered his strength and determination. He picked up the magical rock, its presence a comforting weight, and stepped onto the land of the Mexica. The city was a labyrinth of wonders, its streets alive with colors and sounds unfamiliar to him. He navigated through the crowds, his eyes searching for any sign of the emperor's palace. The people of Tenochtitlan looked at him with curiosity, his attire and appearance marking him as a stranger. Despite the language barrier, Tukupai's resolve did not waver. He showed the rock to the locals, hoping someone would recognize its significance and guide him to the emperor. Fortune smiled upon him when a wise elder, sensing the rock's power, led Tukupai to the grand palace at the heart of the city. The palace was a marvel of architecture, its walls adorned with intricate carvings and vibrant murals. Inside, Tukupai was brought before the emperor, a man of regal bearing and solemn countenance. The emperor's son lay on a bed, his body frail and his breathing shallow. Tukupai felt a surge of empathy. He had journeyed far for this moment, to bring hope where there was despair. With a deep breath, Tukupai approached the young prince, the rock held firmly in his hand. He began to chant, the ancient words passed down through generations of his people. The rock glowed with a gentle light, its energy flowing into the prince's body. The room fell silent, the onlookers watching in awe as the boy's color returned, his breathing steadied, and his eyes fluttered open. The miracle they had witnessed was undeniable. The prince, once on the brink of death, was now filled with life. The emperor, overcome with gratitude, embraced Tukupai.
"You have saved my son,"
He said, his voice thick with emotion.
"Ask anything of me and it shall be yours."
Tukupai bowed his head.
Great Emperor, I ask only for safe passage home for myself and my companion, who is gravely ill. He too needs healing.
The emperor immediately summoned his best healers, and they were escorted to where Anoki lay still on the raft. The healers worked tirelessly, their knowledge and skills a testament to the advanced medical practices of the Mexica. Under their care, Anoki's condition stabilized. The journey and the battle had weakened him, but the healer's expertise and the magic of the rock ensured his recovery. The days that followed were a blur of gratitude and farewells. The emperor, true to his word, provided Tukupai and Anoki with a safe journey back to their homeland. They traveled with an escort, their path secured by the emperor's decree. As they neared their village, the familiar sights and sounds filled Tukupai with an overwhelming sense of relief and joy. Their return was met with jubilation. The village erupted in celebration, their names chanted with reverence and pride. Tukupai's family embraced him, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Anoki, now on the mend, was greeted as a hero, his bravery and loyalty honored by all. In the days that followed, Tukupai shared their tale with the village. The story of their journey, the dangers they faced, and the miracle they witnessed in Tenochtitlán became a part of their village's lore, a tale to be told for generations. The chief and Yanai listened with pride, their eyes reflecting the respect they now held for Tukupai.
You have fulfilled your destiny, Tukupai.
Yanai said, her voice warm with admiration.
You are not just a Hutash. You are a guardian of our people's spirit.
Tukupai looked at the magical rock, now resting peacefully in his hand. He had embarked on this journey as a hesitant healer, unsure of his place in the world. Now, he returned as a leader, a healer, and a guardian of his people's legacy. Anoki, fully recovered, stood beside him, a brother in arms and spirit. Together, they had faced the unknown, their friendship and courage the light that guided them through the darkest of times. As Tukupai gazed upon his people, their faces alight with celebration and hope, he realized the true extent of his journey. It was not just about healing the emperor's son or proving his worth. It was about understanding the depth of his power, the importance of his role, and the unbreakable bond of friendship. The magical rock, a symbol of his heritage and strength, had been the key to their success. But it was their heart, their courage, and their unwavering spirit that had truly healed and transformed. Tukupai and Anoki, once young men of the Chumash, were now legends in their own right, their story a beacon of hope and a testament to the enduring power of faith, friendship, and the human spirit.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Quantum Dispatches and stay tuned next week for another thrilling adventure. Thank you for listening.